to host it. And so without further ado, I want to introduce you to Stella Crossty.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. I'm super excited, like Matthew said, to have this conversation, to start these not start, right? This is an ongoing conversation and a very important one. And to be at the forefront of it is vital. I think for me, when we're talking about brands introducing diversity or incorporating diversity into their brand strategy, it's less about should they. It's less about should brands be working with diverse creators, diverse artists, and it's more about can brands afford not to, right? When you're looking at brands, a lot of times they love to say, we want to reach everyone, we want to expand our reach, we want our message to know that this is our product or our service is for everyone. But then when you look at their infrastructures, a lot of times what you see is that the people who are shaping their stories all look alike. And the picture just often becomes a lot more narrow than the audience that they're claiming to serve. And that's a really important gap that needs to be bridged. And I think it can be at the expense of your entire brand and your brand identity and your brand story. Um, Especially on social media, right? Because social is now the driver of all of our communication. Social is now not just a distribution channel like it used to be or like it was originally created to be, but now it's the clearest reflection of who you are as a brand. It's the voice, it's the story of your brand. So if you look at a brand's creator ecosystem and it's homogenous, your content is going to reflect that. And your content is also going to be speaking to only one audience. And again, I feel that that is detrimental to your brand strategy. So investing in diverse creators is not about being trendy. It's not about checking off a box. It's about a growth. It's about a growth decision that will take your brand to the next level and expand your reach and just overall make you a lot cooler. Because I mean, look at us. Right? So I am super, super duper excited to introduce myself and our panelists today. Like we know, my name is Stella Crossty. I have 10 years of experience working in video production, storytelling. Storytelling is my heart. I love telling stories that motivate, captivate people, and that really drive you into action and drive you into something different, introduce you into something different. And I think that every brand needs to understand that every single post that you make on social media is telling your brand story. And so it's not to be frivolous, it's something to really take seriously. And I am joined by these wonderful, wonderful creators. Everyone has their mics? Okay. So we can start with the beautiful Sheridan Davenport. And you take it away. Tell us about your story, who you are, and what work you do in the city.
Thank you, Stella. You guys heard me? Yeah. Thank you, Stella, and thank you, Dooley. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Like Stella said, I'm Sheridan Davenport. I am a graphic designer, professor, and artist. I'm originally from Atlanta, moved to Cincinnati to go to Xavier, where I still am a professor in Xavier. But as far as social media, I've been making content since about the time I got out of college, so about 6 years now. A lot of my content has to do with my process as a designer or just being an artist. But it really just depends on the time of the season. I would say now I'm focusing more on making content that is informative and that will hopefully push people to want to get off of the app and go do something. I'm very, very happy that nowadays the whole mindset of like post all the time, post as much as you can. We're kind of moving past that and we're working on being a little more intentional. So that's what a lot of my content is going to look like.
Awesome. Thanks for being here, Sheridan. I love your content. I'm a fan. Next up, we have Romain Mayambi. So if you could introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, my name is Romain Mayambi. I'm a photographer and creative director based in Cincinnati, Ohio. Not originally from Cincinnati, but moved here about 11 years ago from Congo. Yeah, growing up, I moved to 3 different countries before I ended up here. So born in Congo, moved to Zambia where I spent most of the time, and then moved to Zimbabwe, and then here. So technically, I feel like an old man because I feel like I've experienced so much over time. But it's the pleasure of being based in Cincinnati. Passionate about the city continue to grow within art and like really finding ways to like bring opportunities to the city. The fun thing, you know, like it was like I posted, I was like, okay, and when people see my photos or my videos, like, oh, you're based in Cincinnati, it's almost like a surprise. So I think that's a compliment in a way, and the goal is to continue to bring those community here and like really show people like what we're about. And we're not in the mid city, even though we're in the mid one, but we have super like talented folks. So our goal is to be able to highlight that and much like that in our work as well.
Absolutely. Awesome. Also a fan. Shameless plug, he shot my wedding. It was really good. He did amazing. Along with the wonderful Daniel Ero. So shout out to him. Where's he at? No. Okay, so, and then last, most definitely not least, we have the beautiful Danishki, or Dee, from Fort Cincinnati.
Dee De Livera, but you call me Dee because that's what I'm already going to say. And I go to. Just one of these in Sri Lanka.
Just tell them.
Can you text? In college at UP, where I would never think that fun. Master's. After 4 years, I was so close to my family and friends at home. But did my master's, got a job opportunity, had a wedding, had a baby. So now all my studies got very much needs to be that I need to have. I don't know if that's well. But I and with my husband because we went out to eat a lot and we would take pictures. So my friends would be like, "Oh, you went to this place. What should I order from there?" So then we were like, "Why not just throw this into a food blog?" Because whenever I went to like New York, for example, or Chicago, I would always search like Chicago foodies and see what they're eating because I want to eat what they're eating. And so that's how that started. And my goal with that is to just kind of promote as many small businesses as I can and show off all the diverse and ethnic foods that we have in our city. Because people underestimate Cincinnati's food scene, and we do pretty well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here. I have honestly tried a lot of places thanks to you and Hunter, so I appreciate it. All right. So I think the best way to kick this off is to really talk about authorship, right? So there's a difference between brands like appearing to have diversity in their content, but how does it change when creators become the authors of the content that brands are putting out? And I think that there are actually a lot of brands who are doing this really beautifully. And I'm curious to know if any of you want to highlight some brands that you think are authentically leveraging diverse voices and that have inspired you by that. So we can start with you, Sheridan, if you have any thoughts or examples of that. Oh, yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
This is Devin.
It's loud.
Yeah, it's a little hard for people to hear webinar.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll try to project and then be weird. All right. So, a really great brand that I recently worked with, or last year I worked with FCC Cincinnati. Every couple of, I think throughout their season, they have 5 different heritage nights. That's what they're called, heritage nights. And so they have like Pride Night, Latin Night, and then for Black Heritage Night. They partnered with me, and for each Heritage Night, they partnered with different local artists, and we get to create a match day graphic. And so I got to make the match day graphic for Black Heritage Night. They were very like, do whatever you need to do, which I appreciated that because the team is relatively brown, but the organization, you know, they are diverse, but you know, everyone's not from the same background. So I appreciated that they didn't give a ton of parameters. They just said it's gotta have the date, it's gotta have the team logo and who we're playing. And so I really enjoyed having the opportunity to one, meet with other Black people. I didn't just make this on my own. It was something that I did kind of have some conversations with some of my friends or people who have a different Black experience than I do. Because when someone says, make something for Black people, I'm like, well, there's a lot of us, and you know, all different.
Right.
I appreciated that FCC recognized that and did not force too much onto my creative process. And I don't want to speak for the other artists, but I would assume that everyone probably had a pretty good experience being able to make something that was reflective of their identity or their community. And be able to do it with an organization that was very welcoming of that. So it was really cool to be able to make this graphic, and then they printed out a bunch of them, and I was able to share them to fans. And it was amazing opportunity.
Wow. I love that so much. I think my favorite part of that story is them saying you take the charge, and that's where I'm talking about authorship, because we work with a lot of brands, right? And a lot of the times they're wanting to hire and leverage creators, but there are a lot of fine lines that they have to adhere to. And there's nothing like more suffocating for a creator than to be told like, create something beautiful, but it can't be this, can't be this, can't do this, can't do. It's just like, what? Especially if you're asking to create something specifically that represents our heritage. So the fact that FC really gave you that creative freedom, I think is really huge, and I love that. So thanks for sharing that example. Denishki.
So I partnered with a company called Cincinnati Experience. I'm sure you guys may follow them. And they hire me to, you know, do what I do best, which is go out to eat, which is nice. But what I love about them is they don't tell me where to go. They don't tell me how to post. They don't tell me what to post. They trust that I know what I'm doing. And they also encourage me to go to do posts about more ethnic foods and talk about small businesses and little dive bars that serve chicken tikka masala. Or, you know, so I really appreciated that they gave me the creative freedom to do what I wanted, and they trusted my taste and my opinion. And they do, you know, hire a lot of other creators that have big, you know, brown, white, whether they have a big following or a small following. So I like that they are diverse as a whole, as well, and not just whether it's race or color or whether it's, you know, number of followings and that kind of thing too.
Yeah.
Sorry if I'm loud.
No, that's so important. And also a point I wanted to make, like when we're talking about diversity, it's beyond the color of our skin, right? It's about representation across the board. Are we representing people of different socioeconomic statuses? Are we representing people of different sexual orientations, right? So I think brands really tapping into an infrastructure that's beyond like a siloed topic is really important. And that way you're reaching the masses in a different way. So I love that. Man.
So for me, it's a little bit different in the sense, like, I want to say when I work with Tabasco, so there is smart sauce company based out of New York. So, you know,
We know what Tabasco is. It's a small little company. You might have heard of it. He's a humble guy. He's a humble guy. Yeah.
So this little brand to that. No, but I think they reached out because they saw the work and like they loved what I was doing and they trusted me enough to. I think it's also like a little difficult, especially when a brand like sends stuff over to you to like create the work like the one. Because sometimes they feel much comfortable, like I'm gonna go there and like, you know, work in your space. But the fact that they were really nice enough to send me 100 bottles of hot sauce. So if anybody needs, that's on the stage, your product. But I think it's more of that, like trusting their creativity and being open to like what I was offering. So they came to me, was on the saw some videos, like I was working on this series, or still working on it, but where I photograph athletes in unconventional spaces. And during the time the Olympics were happening, so they wanted to tie something to the Olympics with their brand. So the whole idea was like, how can we kind of like bring those two worlds together? Like, oh yeah, I can do that in a day. So ended up reaching out to, I don't know if you guys know, the Roma is a small restaurant, or not a restaurant, but a small store down in like close downtown, right next to Paragoa. Actually, Derek is the one that connected me to Hideki to be able to use the space. But yeah, we stacked the whole shelf with like hot sauce and like really had like we had fencers, wrestlers, and a tennis player just to kind of like represent the sports that were happening at the time. But for me, it's more of a brand trust and vision. And it was like it's not very big where they get to like, hey, do this with the people around you and give me the opportunity, allow me to like hire like athletes in our city and be able to like kind of like you know, get that money in their pockets and like continue kind of like, encouraging people in the space. And, I think that's huge for me as like, an artist of color.
Yeah, absolutely. Money in our pockets is huge. We all want that. And yeah, I think it's super interesting. I think that's a really great segue. I would love to hear you talk a little bit more about your feature with National Geographic and how this photograph that was featured came about. Because yeah, it's something where when we're talking about representation beyond like what's in front of us, you got to get creative, right? Like brands are hiring us, and it's like, how do I put something together that conveys the message I want to convey with what I have? So yeah, talk a little bit about this photograph and how it came about that you were featured on National Geographic.
Yeah, this is a funny story because I'll probably say it's like being like 5 minutes in the making. In the sense of like, I literally had a conversation with my older brother. I'm like, man, like one day I wish to be like National Geographic, but there's no like specific path on how to get there. So I was just like, I'm just going to continue creating the work and hopefully something happens. And years later, so my brother and I do exhibitions as well. Like I do photography, he's a painter. So we try to tell a similar story with different formats. And so this one was our second exhibition. And yeah, so this is actually shot at Voice American Park. Let's not go back to Africa.
That's in Westchester.
When people came in to see the work, and they're like, oh, so did you go back home? I was like, this is actually Westchester. So, but it just shows like when you have a vision, you can make something happen no matter where you're located. Yeah, but I would drive by there because we have some family friends who live over there. So I would drive by. I'm like, I need to use this part for something, but I'm not sure yet. And then, so when we had this exhibition, it was called Heritage. So since I haven't been back home for like 12 plus years, wanted to sort of go for the shores, like learn where we come from, our roots, and really just get that nostalgic feeling. And so the image is called shepherd, so you can see the person that holding the stick, which is representing of like a shepherd's crook. So in my culture, and in a lot of cultures, there's like a leader who will be like, or a mentor to say, who helps the younger generation kind of lead them in a way and like show them the roots. So that was like the main inspiration of the image. But literally the way the image looks, I literally had that vision. I was like, I want the outfit to be blue. I want the sky to be blue. Like there's all this like vision that I had. And so we ended up doing that photo shoot, and the person in the photo is my best friend. He's from Senegal, so he's wearing the Senegal robe, like the robe, and the bush are like originally Moroccan, but they're around Africa. And the mask is from. So I had my uncle get some masks over to the show. I was like, I needed to be like authentic and tell a story. So this was more of just like a Congolese story, but it was more of like an African story, like really celebrating like culture, outfits, everything like that. And if you can see that little dot, like there's a little dot in the back, that's actually the moon. It was how
The real life moon, y'all. I thought it was maybe edited.
Yeah, I know. It's like it was for everything was just happening like it was supposed to. But yeah, so we did the exhibition. I posted the photo, and randomly somebody just DMs me, "Who's this?" And then I went to the page and I see like, "Hey, you're National Geographic." And then my heart just, I was like, "No, what does this mean?" And then like few minutes later, they sent me a message like, "Hey, we saw the image and we wanna have our team review it and see if we want to feature for the May issue." And yeah, long story short, here we are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like more of the story. Like just make things happen, have that vision board, have that vision, and things just fall in line, the stars align. So yeah.
Yeah. So cool. So cool. I think you do color so well, Roman, and it's really inspiring because life is better with color. Am I can I get a okay. So yeah, that's such a great story. And I think it's something to like talking about creativity and what we bring to the table and what brands will bring to the table when they step outside of their echo chambers and they start to see just how much better life is in color and how many different, like how much perspective comes and how much you can expand your scope by thinking about maybe the small people. And so what you call the small people or the small businesses. So I would love to ask you, Danishki, about your work with small businesses and Kids 107 and to talk a little bit about that and why that's important to you.
So every Tuesday, we have a segment on the radio, Kids 107, with John called Tasty Tuesday. And we can go. But a lot of fun. But what I really love about that segment is that we bring in, restaurant owners or a server or a GM or a chef from a small business, large businesses, what we've got, doesn't matter. But we want to spread the word mostly about small businesses, and I love that I have the opportunity to do that with John. He makes it very easy and comfortable for your guests. You've been on the show. And he encourages people with like an accent to come on and not be afraid to talk about what they love to do, which is cooking and serving others. So so I really enjoy my time on Tuesdays. It was all, even when I was pregnant, that's like the one thing that I did want to go do, or even after I had my baby, that was my little escape to go do that and work with small businesses on the radio.
Yeah, and it's voluntary, which is amazing.
It's voluntary, I don't get paid, John. No, it's like it makes you so happy.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I love that. Awesome. I'm curious for you to speak a little bit, Sheridan, on like what are some stereotypes that you've seen brands maybe fall into when it comes to design specifically? I think with your piece that you did with FC Cincinnati, I love that you were really diligent about thinking about the African diaspora and how big we are, how expansive, and how to represent that in one image, right? But how was it for you in that process, and how was it like, okay, how do I avoid stereotyping while also bringing to life a piece like this?
I think the biggest red flag that I've noticed whenever I have worked with brands, is when they give you a script and then they're like, go and do this video. And I would say, that's not at all how I would say it. Or, I have a relatively diverse audience. Like I don't just speak to people who just look like me, but I sometimes I have like been in instances where people are like, yeah, just do it this way. Like, well then anyone could have done this. This isn't feel authentic. But as far as working with SE, it was nice. It was nice to kind of be encouraged to think about other people and think about what my audience would actually want to see, while still being considerate of their audience as well. When we did make the promotional video for it, or like we made content about my design process, it was nice that they let me talk about being a Black artist. And there was no, like, nothing was off limits besides saying something crazy. But it was really great to feel like my voice could be heard, and then taking that platform and that opportunity to speak and lift up other people in the community as well.
Mhm.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. I think there is just thinking about stereotypes, and we deal with this too, working with brands and trying to get them to kind of think outside of the box. It's like, okay, I love what you said about the scripts, because it's like it can be a hard bridge, because it's like we speak differently, we act differently, we talk differently. And so if you're kind of like siloed to saying a specific thing or trying to portray a specific thing, it's important to have that creative freedom. So yeah, in order to avoid stereotypes and make sure that we're representing the whole. So yeah, absolutely. I would also love to hear a little bit more about your experience working with Duke Energy and having an installation there, because that's pretty cool.
Yes. They just renamed the building. It's not.
Oh yeah.
It's the
Cincinnati.
Financial State.
Oh, First Financial.
Yes, so. Yes, that is huge. That was an amazing opportunity, and I have to give a huge shout out to Black Art Speaks, and Artworks. But Black Art Speaks is an artist collective, and any form of art and any colored person can be a part of Black Art Speaks. But they do a really good job of giving artists of all different types an opportunity to work on various projects of various scales, despite what your experience may be. And so like I said at the beginning of this, I'm a graphic designer. I do love fine art. I was an art major, so I will always be a little artsy girl at heart. But I just wanted to get back into doing fine art and really let everyone in the collective pitch ideas for the new convention center. They were awarded 3 different areas to create art for the space. And so I pitched an idea. I surprisingly got it, and it's just
No surprise.
Well, I mean, usually when you do public art, you have to have proof that you've done public art before. So that's where the surprise was. But I essentially had a partner on the project, Jordan Harris. I designed and he fabricated this basically a 13-foot by 46 feet high sculpture of Music Hall. And it's interactive. You guys don't see it. It's on the 3rd floor. But it's just this big wood sculpture made out of reclaimed furniture that plays music and is meant to look like Music Hall. And so really great opportunity to really that works and what were willing and really designed. It was a big desire of the cities as well to have a diverse group of artists be represented within the space permanently as well. So I think it's really important to I'm just really grateful for organizations that do look to give opportunities to people who might have been overlooked, whether it was because of my identity or because of just the experience or lack thereof that I had. Because now I can go and pay it forward to a future artist or other people who are looking to get into public art or art of any kind. But that was an amazing opportunity. And so we're really looking forward to sharing that experience. I'm personally about to start editing that experience and sharing it on social media. And hopefully other brands will also start to think like we give chances to people who we might have initially overlooked. Like when you said, sometimes having a big following doesn't always have to be necessary. You never know what someone has up their sleeve creatively. You never know what message that they can praise in their own way that will really help a brand's audience kind of identify with them more. Everyone has unique stories as well, and I love being able to tell mine through art.
Absolutely. I love that. Yeah, I feel like in this world of influencers and all, so many people that have different amounts of people that they're reaching, from your social media page, you see people just go and they might look at your followers and then make judgments according to that. And I think that it's so important. And that's something that we talk to brands a lot about is like, okay, let's not just be thinking about these really like macro influencers. Like there's different tiers, there's different levels of influence. And especially, again, when you're looking at diversifying your content, that's another piece of diversity that's really important, is that you are also looking at people who are maybe more micro or even lower than that, and giving them a chance, right? Like, so if they had said, oh, she's never had a public display before, that's not, they would have missed out on a really beautiful installation that you did. And it's representative of Music Hall, which is so like pivotal to our city. And so it's really cool that it lives on there permanently. So yeah, you know, I think it's for brands who are like expanding their reach. I'm curious for you all to answer about like what is one foundational step that you think that brands should be taking in order to foster genuine diversity in their content. So I can start with you.
For me, I'll say really just taking that risk. I know not a lot of brands, a lot of like organizations want to do that. But on my side, I feel like it's taking that creative risk. I think, especially what you talked about a little bit earlier, I think there's a lot of like cool like sports teams, organizations in the city that could be really pushing that creative envelope. But it plays safe for some reason, I don't know. But I think when you look outside of the city, there's like a lot of like these teams who really like push that creativity in the shows. And it really kind of like resonates with the audience because they want to see the team look cool. And I think the goal with us is like, how can we get to that same point? It's like having these conversations, but really having this conversation with the people in those rooms who make those decisions and showing them like, hey, this is very beneficial because you won't just attract more fans, but you show the entire world like, hey, what's first of all we do here, and it highlights not just the sports team, but our city as well. So I think it's just really taking risk, I would say, on that creative vision and sitting down with like creators in the community and seeing what can we do to better ourselves. And yeah, that's basically how I'm thinking. Like every day, I'm trying like, who do I talk to? Like, I need to sit down with somebody, show them the vision, and I always say there's so many creative people in Cincinnati when it comes to photography, geography, graphics. And so I feel like they need to utilize those groups and go in and like, hey, we need this, this, and this, instead of like kind of having this kind of protective thing going on, or like almost like gatekeeping. I think once those gates are open, I feel like we could do like really amazing things, show the world what we're capable, but it just takes that one door to open for us to do something.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So what would you say is one foundational step that brands could take to foster genuine diversity in their reach?
So I think some brands like to show that their face is diverse, right? But sometimes within the staff and the leadership teams, that might. So I think foundational step would be to first start with their core, right? And leadership, people that are making this decision, people that are selecting these creators, they need to be a diverse panel of people too.
Yeah.
And then of course, they select their face to represent what their inside is as well.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It really does. Yeah. I love that answer. And I think that is pivotal. And I don't want to name any names because we're not on but there's one company, their logo's red, and it's almost like, you know, and it's like that's a prime example of like, okay, talk is cheap, right? Like you can say that you're for whoever, you can say all the things, and I will admit, like I am one of the perpetrators who have gone back. But like sometimes it's just like a really great shopping experience, and like I can't help it. But I think it's super important. Oh, you weren't getting it yet? Red logo. But yeah, like it's like, okay, if there were more people in leadership there that look like us, like I wonder if that would have gone the same way. Or if you'd be so quick to pull back on everything that you say that you stand for, right? So I think like that is such an essential part of any brand, right? To have the people who are making decisions look diverse and represent the collective. So I love that. Sheridan.
I have the exact same answer. I was like, that if I know every company goes through ebbs and flows financially, sometimes hiring is realistic, but you can contract people. There are a lot of diverse freelancers who could come in and maybe advise on a campaign, or when you were hiring those influencers, like make it make sense. And we can tell, we as consumers can always tell when someone was not consulted of a different, ethnicity or identity, genes. That's all I have to say. And we all remember that genes incident. All name the company, but you can tell, they didn't ask enough people.
Yeah.
All you needed was one person to be like, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and from a company's perspective, like, if you can't hire, bring people in. Don't be afraid to ask and listen.
Yeah.
Don't just, bring people in and make it where you're checking on the box, but actually listen to understand.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I'm gonna leave that one there. Have some things to say about that. Okay, so I would like to move more towards our creative processes, right? When we're actually thinking about like what we want to do, what we want to show, how we want to show it. Roman, for you, I would love for you to tell us a little bit about your creative process when because you're like a lot of times with your shoots, you are asking people to come and shoot with you, right? When you're doing like more of your stage shoots. So I would love to hear about like how do you go about selecting your subjects and really cultivating that creative process?
The first step is, I would say my brain doesn't know when to stop. So even now when I'm sitting here, I know it's like, my brain is like, oh, what do I have to do next? Like my brain always is like trying to come up with ideas. I think it's like, it's a muscle, right? So the more you train it, the more it just kind of like clicks. So basically what happens, when I'm laying down in my bed at 1 a.m., I just kind of let thoughts come through. And it's almost like a meditation, right? It's like you just kind of lay there, eyes closed, and I just let it run wild. And then like randomly something will be popping up and I'll be and then I'm like, does this make sense? So that's kind of how I first come up with the idea, just like really meditate on that. Once I have a vision, and if I need models for that, and I go to Pinterest, I start looking for images that feel close to the vision that I had, so I can easily share that with people. Because I realize like sometimes saying it to somebody's face, they don't see it, they only see it in my head. So I'm like, what's the closest I can get to make sense to them? So that's like my second step. I go structure that. I do a little write up with like idea, the vision, the feel, the mood, the goal. And then once that's done, then I start looking for my models, usually my friends. I'm just,
Yeah.
this guy will be perfect for this, this girl will be perfect for this. So after that, I send it over to them, see if they're open to the idea. They will talk about, location wise. In my process, like location scouting is just like driving down the street, being somewhere new. I'm like, oh, I want to use this space, but I don't know what yet. And then when the idea comes, I start kind of like blending those locations and models and all that together. And if I understand this, yeah, find that location, asking for permission or just walking in and doing it anyway. Actually, somebody asked me earlier, they're like, so how do you like get spaces to like let you shoot? I'm like, I don't ask permission. Just walk in, and maybe like 20 minutes into it, like, hey, I'm supposed to be here. I'm like, no, but here we are. And then I'm just like, just 5 more minutes, and then they're like, yeah, sure. I gotta shoot for 10 more minutes. I really do let them know that I appreciate them, and yeah.
Well, let's talk about getting a sponsorship with Kroger so that you can shoot in there. Where else? Whole Foods.
I just wanna go to Kroger right now and do shit. But that's kind of the process right there. Yeah, this goes to the visual board story, finding the models, getting that location, and then executing and hoping everything goes great that day, which usually doesn't. And I feel like as a creative, like most of you can agree, it's like everything never always goes the way you want it
Yeah.
to. It's how you bounce back from that.
Kind of like this panel, we're like running around.
Oh, so you already got a second location.
Yeah, that was good thinking.
Good job on you guys. I was interested about this fun. But yeah, I think that comes with the game. That's the whole point of
Yeah.
like being creative. I think the bouncing back is what makes you you. And actually, quick story. I was doing another athlete series, and I bought a ping pong table. And I thought he was gonna like, he came in a box and it was super heavy. I thought once we get to the shoot, we just open it and then like, pop it open. No. And this thing was like broken into pieces and there was like 100 screws and I didn't have the equipment basically. And so we got there and like we only had like 2 hours and setting that thing up was gonna take 2 hours. And I'm standing there like, what do I, and the models like the athletes are already on their way. I had this line like driving like dancers coming from Louisville, driving down. I'm like, I'm stuck here. And then we looked up and there was a big sporting goods like 9 minutes from there. Drove there, like, hey, you guys don't like want to know we can set up? They're like, yeah. Oh, you need like a U-Haul. And I'm like, oh, what can get a U-Haul? And it was just too much work. So what we ended up doing is just getting the panels, putting them together, setting them up on the table, like one of the restaurant tables, sending that. It's just like that bounce back was like basically more of the story, like everything is not always gonna go your way, but the way you come back from that is what really like kind of like builds that muscle. So yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's the question.
Yeah, it definitely does. I love it. I love it. I think who here loves Pinterest? We love Pinterest, like always starting with someone else's vision and how they brought their vision to life and then incorporating that into your own. Like that is super awesome. And like that's how a lot of my creative process goes too. So I resonate. Danishki, I would love to hear from you too. Like, how do you go about saying, I'm sure you get restaurants reaching out to you all the time, like, can you go in the future? Like, all of those things. Like, how do you go about selecting, okay, this is what I want to do and all of that, your creative process?
So in the beginning, when we had like, I don't know, 25 followers, we would reach out to restaurants and say, hey, would you want to be featured on my little page? And some of them would say yes, and I will never forget those people ever. But they took a chance on my little 20 people page. And now, when they want to be featured, we will obviously always say yes. But in terms of creative process and how I pick where I want to be, now my time is a little bit more valuable because I have a little girl, and that takes first priority. So I really do have to dig into the restaurant. Do I enjoy this? Would my audience enjoy this? Do they have a diverse menu that that I can introduce and share something that other people may not have had? And then next, I don't, I can't say that I take inspiration from a certain place because I have to go there, I have to experience it, and that's where my inspiration comes from. So, I mean, sometimes food doesn't always look great. It's delicious, but it doesn't always look great. Like curry, for example, right? It's just curry. And it just comes in a bowl, and there's not a lot of exciting elements to it. So sometimes I try to incorporate like eating the curry, like dipping a naan in it or rice in it, and just kind of trying to make it a little bit more relevant and a little bit more exciting instead of just having the curry. Or like, sprinkling cilantro on top or anything cute. But I also take a lot of inspiration from others in the space, when I see my fellow foodies post, and I absolutely love some of the eye that they have. And I always make sure to tell them, like, hey, this is so inspiring, and I'm going to be, taking pieces from it. Like just the angles that they're using, the way that they're editing their videos, like Kate Screaming, for example, if you
so good.
She is perfection. And we have so many different diverse content, right? Some people in their car eating hot dog, and people love it, which is amazing. And then there's Kate who does like these perfect edits and everything. So I definitely take inspiration from her and other creators on how they are placing their food, how they are capturing it, the angles that I was using, like I said. So it's definitely a process, but not, for me, it's not one that I can sit down at night and think about and wait for pieces to flow like Roman does. So, again,
Yeah.
creative processes.
Yeah, for sure. Two things. One, as one of my first clients when I started at Dooley was Gold Star. Talk about it being hard to make the food look good. It's like chili. Wow. It's like, the bun should actually be this way. And I'm like, oh my goodness. But it's like you get more and more used to it. And I think what I've seen from you, which is really cool, is just getting creative with it. Like Exhibit A. I'm just gonna keep bringing this back. No, but like, yeah, what does it look like to hop on trends and do fun things? And I hope it serves as encouragement to anyone here who's interested maybe in reaching out to brands, starting their own creative page or anything like that, especially starting from scratch, to hear that you're just like, hey, can you take a chance on us? And people said yes, like that's super exciting, and just like be encouraged. Like if you have any type of desire to do that type of work, like I think it's important to just put yourself out there and to just do the thing. And then yeah, Sheridan, your creative process, and what's something like you like teach students about this process?
No, the baby, since the part with design, particularly with printing, I love doing rebrands. And I think what is interesting when you're doing a rebrand, especially for a smaller business that may be their initial logo, which is not a brand, thank you. And it's not a brand, it's part of your brand. But a lot of companies, when they're just starting out, all they can do is just make a logo with an Canva or with AI. So what I like to do is help people expand on that or pivot depending on what their business looks like now. Because the business you started 6 months ago, or maybe even 6 years ago, could be completely different from what you're doing today. So one of the things that I do is I try to ask my clients, and I teach my students as well, what are you trying to communicate? What is the main thing that you are trying to say? When you are a business owner, you're thinking of every single aspect of your business. And guess what? Your consumer does not need to know every single aspect of your business. They just need to know what you're doing. And then once you open the door for them, they get in your home, which is their they look around, they see, and they see body wonder, they so that really makes whatever you're doing. So I think part of the process is understanding and really listening and thinking about why you're doing something. Design is communication. And this is another big thing I tell my students: design and art are not always the same thing. Art is your feelings. Design is what you need to keep, what message needs to be heard by whoever you're giving that message to. So the biggest thing that I like to do is just get people to understand, like, what is my main message that I need to share, and the ways that I need to stand out all over the place. Nowadays, everyone is contributing brand. Everyone is doing something. Everyone is trying to tell something or communicate together. But I kind of get to it's the heart of the story telling and how.
Yeah, awesome. I love that. I think that's honestly like the perfect segue into our final question. And I didn't send you guys. I'm running you for a loop. I just thought of it. I just thought of it because it's so important, and you made me think of it, Sheridan, when you were talking about leadership and representation and all of that. And I think a big part of any business or any brand deciding who their leadership is the people who step up and use their voice and aren't afraid to challenge, aren't afraid to ask questions, bring in something new. And like that's been an ongoing process for me, right? Like even finding my voice and finding out like, okay, if I want to tell stories, what are the stories and how do I want to tell them? And communication is key. So the final question I have for all of you is to tell us a little bit about your journeys of finding your voice as creators and yeah, the ways that you want that to develop. So yeah, we can start with you, Sheridan, and then we'll make our way down. Yeah, like tell us about your journey of finding your voice as a creator.
When I just accepted that I like to do art, That was a little bit scary because you always hear the term starving artist, and I like to eat. But no, I was like, maybe these two things don't go together. But I think I honestly learned my voice a little bit more once I started freelancing and working on my own. I pushed into that. I am not a risk taker. I needed a job at the moment in life, and so I started freelancing. And that was a really, really big opportunity for me to understand who I want to be, like what types of clients do I want to work with. What do I want to inform my students of even? Because I've been an adjunct before I started freelancing. So it was just interesting when I go into my classrooms and I think about what is it that I didn't learn when I was literally in their seats? How can I kind of help them in forward in that way? But I think being able to understand what I believe in and what I agree with and what my skills are. Because the other thing is I had to really stop comparing myself. I have to, I don't really get to take a break from Instagram. I have to take a break from LinkedIn. Because it's really easy, and as we all, I'm sure, do. You get on social media, whatever platform, and you're comparing yourself. So I have to recognize that my journey as a professor, as a designer, as a freelancer, or businesswoman is going to be different from everybody else's. And that's okay.
Mhm.
And what you're seeing is not actually what is happening in anyone's life. They don't tell you about the moments where they get fired unexpectedly,
Mhm.
or when a client doesn't like what you made and you spent hours working on it. I don't know if that is
Yeah, it absolutely does.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
who I am and what it is to accomplish for me.
Yes, I love it. And just a quick shout out because I am the daughter of immigrants myself. Shout out to all of our immigrants in the room, all the people who come from all over the world, representing from all over. And so I didn't click in my head, but I thought it was super cool to have two people here representing from different countries. And I know when you come to the US, it's not always an open arm, and finding your voice can be a whole nother experience. So I want to give you free range when you answer this about like finding your voice here in the US, and like how you've come to be able to use your voice with confidence.
So I said, when I came here, I came for college, and I didn't have anybody. I didn't know anybody here. My dad dropped me off. He was like, "Peace out, see you later." And it's just, going to the bulls here. But I did have a little bit of a lucky path because I'd gone swim team at UC. So I had an instant group of people that, I know my friends. Didn't always click, but my roommate was my maid of honor at my wedding, so I was able to piggyback off her, understand a lot of the culture. I mean, some culture shocks we can talk about, like me calling my in-laws by their first name. That's an absolute no in Sri Lanka, like we would call it auntie or uncle or
Yeah.
sister or whatever. So my mother-in-law was going to call her Laura. And I'm like, I just can't get that word out. So it's, sometimes I just say, "How's mom?" Like 200 my hey, how's mom? He's like, there's a God. That was a big concept. But also in terms of like my literal voice, American English is different to English that we learn, British English that we learn in Sri Lanka. So I would say things like corridor and currently, and my roommate is like, "What are you talking about?" So when I would like present in front of my class, I would not be able to process those things in my head and spit out the way that it's in my head. Like, really embarrassed myself once when I was trying to say, to people in that person's shoes to understand how they're feeling. And I said something about putting someone's shoes on and walking in their shoes, and people look at me like, "You are insane." So I really had to, practice that and do it more often, take the risk of making a fool of myself sometimes because that's okay. That's how we learn. And failure is only gonna improve us. So now I teach and do voiceovers all the time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so I have to come a long way from, where I started, but taking that risk and just trying to push yourself out of the comfort zone, not thinking about other people think is so much easier said than done, but really trying to practice that even at home is really gonna take you a long way. Did I answer your question?
Absolutely. And I, for one, love your voice. Roman.
So the question was how I found my voice.
Mhm.
Well, for me, it was freshman year of college. Just came from high school and I'm like, campus, like everyone's walking around. I went to UC, so I went to UC to watch first.
Go Bearcats.
I know, it's such a good masterpiece. But it was, I think the biggest lesson is when I sit down and think about it. So I was from campus freshman year of college. I'm seeing people like in different looks, different outfits. I'm like, oh, I want to capture these looks. And I was like, how do I do that? And I'm like, I can just walk up to them and ask them, hey, can I take a photo? But I didn't have a camera. And my friends were like, oh, we creepy. And so I'm like, hey. So I ended up like borrowing a camera. And then that's how I started walking up to strangers and like just asking them, like, hey, I love your outfit. And I bothered everybody at Blue Ash campus. He was so small that I talked to everybody. Don't see me coming and you can just see me. So what I ended up doing is we take the shuttle to Clifton, so you can take the shuttle and like, go to main campus. So we went to main campus, did that for a little bit, and then I found out like that I know the fashion students. So guess what I was hanging out? Just literally by that just standing there, did that for a few years, and like I think I'm glad that I never stopped with that idea and waited for these guys to like, oh, I don't want to be camera, I don't want this, I don't want that. Because I think it's easy to fall into that when you start to like overanalyze it. And I'm glad I just like, I don't even know what, like, I guess passion inspired me, like, the passion to like talk to people. And I'm glad I just did that because I was very like introverted too. So doing that kind of allowed me to like break that, that wall that I had, and I knew exactly what to say because you walk up to somebody and they're like, "What do you want?" It's so awkward. It was like 2016. Nobody was like walking around and like, "Hey, you gonna take a photo?" But now you can like walk out. What are you wearing? And someone's like, "I'm wearing this." But that then somebody just stared at me like, I'll have my hand out and be like, oh yeah, but I did that for a little bit. And then I wanted to start creating my own story. Like I think that's why I started to find my voice. Because like I think I did the problem. Like okay, I've shot everybody with like ripped jeans and whatever. And I'm like, how do I kind of make elevate from that?
Yeah.
And I started to create stories around it and like actually like tell people, hey, come through. Like this is the vision that I have. And it slowly just kind of grew from there to like wanting to do like portraits and like editorial stuff. And then work with athletes. So it's that experimenting kind of led me to finding my voice. And I think I'm still kind of finding it, but it's on the creative side. And I'm like, my whole thing is creativity. So where do I put this creativity in? Like this concept, that concept, and like I said before, like my mind doesn't know when to stop. It's like an addiction. I'm like, even when I want it to stop, I'm trying to go to bed, but I'm at the meeting the next day. Like, oh, they just
Yeah,
my
I know.
brain is not available. And the thing is, I used to want to stop it. I would be like, shut it down, but now I just let it go. Because like, I've honestly gotten some good ideas of just like, let it run until it's done, then we'll go to bed. So, just so to say, I'm not a morning person. Whenever people are like, oh yeah, let's have coffee at 9 a.m., I'm like, oh, I'm like, just said like 2 hours ago. Like, one of the stories,
Literally happened to us.
one of the stories, I just found my voice through experimenting and also not letting my mind think about things too much to where I kind of psych myself out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a very spiritual person myself, and those are divine downloads coming to you. So you better clock them, or else. Yeah, no, for real. Like these are meant to be brought to life. And I'm so proud of you three and everyone here who are bringing your visions to life. And yeah, it's super exciting. So I just want to thank you three for taking the time for being on this panel and for sharing your hearts and sharing honest answers. And yeah, the hope is that brands will start to, those who haven't, a lot are, but more and more wake up to what it looks like to represent the masses and to leverage diverse creators. So thank you so much. And for all of you and those who are joining us on Zoom right now, we would love to invite you to join us. We will be here again in about a month on May 14th. We're going to be taking over Covington, a few locations here at Spark House and around. We'll be hosting Creator Con. Creator Con is amazing. It is the biggest event in the Midwest where creators come together to celebrate one another, to pass ideas off of one another. People leave Creator Con with brand deals, with fresh ideas, fresh inspiration. And it's just like so alive and the energy is super high at Creator Con. So we want to give you all 15% off. Today's actually the last day of early bird. But for coming here today, we have this code for you here, panel 15, and I'll give you 15% off of your tickets. And we encourage you to talk to your workplaces about the event and see if they want to send a few people because on the marketing team or really whoever, it doesn't have to be just creators or people who are doing this type of work. I think anyone who comes to CreatorCon can benefit from it. There are a lot of inspirational speakers that will be joining us. And so definitely want to encourage you to spend the day with us. It's going to be a full day. This is the first time we're doing it quite like this. So it's going to be really big and a lot of fun. So please join us. These three will be there on May 14th and it's going to be a party. So thank you all so much. Thank you, Matthew. Thank you, Dooley. Thank you to my whole team that's here and online. So much love for you all. And yeah, you all have a beautiful rest of your Friday. Yeah.
You?
Oh.
Opportunity is such an important topic to talk about. So
Yeah.
thank you for giving us that
Yeah,
space.
absolutely. Thanks, Steve. Cool. Have a great day. Oh, also after party at Revival, because they were really gonna look out for us. You know, can we get a quick picture before you leave? If you don't mind, all gathering together and we'll take a quick photo. How should you do this? Michelle, you take the lead. Thank you. Stop there.